There are defining moments to every Star Wars movie, whether you like the movie or not. Whether it's Luke Skywalker blowing up the first Death Star and narrowly escaping from Darth Vader's clutches, or it's the Death Star being destroyed in Return of the Jedi and Lando and the Millennium Falcon go shooting out of a ball of fire, or the opening scene in Revenge of the Sith where it looks all calm and peaceful until you roll around that Republic cruiser and you see the big battle going on, or you're watching the darkness fall on Kylo Ren as Starkiller Base is consuming his son to claim its next planetary victim. But no matter what scene I'm talking about here, there is none more powerful in the prequel era than the one we're about to talk about. And that scene is the one where Obi-Wan Kenobi and Anakin Skywalker part ways after their duel on Mustafar. A profound scene, one that could have a lasting impression on Star Wars moviegoers for the rest of their lives. Arguably, even probably the best scene in all of Star Wars. Welcome back, everyone. I'm Gerald, and I'm a Star Wars fanatic, and you can be a Star Wars fanatic too. All you have to do is hit that subscribe button, turn on your notifications. Subscribing is absolutely free. We may not agree on every topic that I talk about, but we do agree on one thing. We love Star Wars. Okay, with that said, let's get on with today's topic. On May 19th of 2005, I was standing in line for approximately an hour and a half, maybe 2 hours, to see Revenge of the Sith as it opened in theaters. Now, prior to this moment, the prequels had not been my favorite Star Wars movies. They weren't bad, they were a fun ride, they just weren't my favorite. Something about them just seemed off, and I think it was the CGI or the directing or maybe even the dialogue. I'm not going to parrot what everybody else says, just something in me didn't click as well as the original trilogy had. They weren't bad, I just didn't vibe with them as well. So, standing in line for the Revenge of the Sith release, I was expecting that same non-clicky vibe, enjoying the story at all the same time and enjoying that I'm getting new Star Wars, but I didn't expect a whole lot. But when I sat down in the theater and after the opening crawl went by, the opening scene just hit me with the look of the Jedi starfighters just casually flying along a Republic cruiser. Then they flip over to the other side and there's battle, war everywhere, and it's just so much to take in. This had to be probably the best opening scene for Star Wars I had seen since 1977 when you see the Star Destroyer chasing the Tantive 4. It was this opening scene that told me this movie was going to be different than the previous two. A lot different. So as I sat watching and admiring the rest of the movie, I thought, okay, this is good. It's not bad. It's not horribly written. It's not... The CGI is there, but it feels real. The acting was better. The dialogue was better. And there was no freaking mention of hating sand. And there was very little Jar Jar. Not that I hate Jar Jar. He's a decent enough character. He's just made for kids, and I wasn't a kid at this time. I was pure adult. But as good as it was from the opening scene up until Anakin's turn, nothing prepared me for what was going to happen next. Now, going into Revenge of the Sith, we all knew Anakin Skywalker was going to turn. We knew it would happen sooner or later. We had hoped it happened sooner so we could see a bit more of Darth Vader in the costume, but at the same time, this was beautifully done. He didn't turn till the very end, and when he did, it was heartbreaking. We knew it was going to happen, and we screamed, "No, Anakin, don't do it, don't do it." And he did it anyway, because he had to. This was his journey. This was what was going to lead into the original trilogy, or at least the years before the original trilogy, and it made sense. But that moment he turns just rips everybody's heart out. I could hear everybody gasp in the theaters, and I felt it. I could feel the pain. I could feel Anakin's pain. I could feel Obi-Wan Kenobi's pain. And if there was ever a moment where you wondered, why is Hayden Christensen playing Anakin Skywalker or Darth Vader? His acting's horrible. I've heard that from a lot of people. This moment shows he is an amazing actor. And we all knew that Ewan McGregor was a great actor. He'd been in 100 other things, and he'd been done great in them. And from his cameos in different series, and from his train spotting, and all that stuff, we knew he had it in him. He carried the first two movies, but now it was Hayden Christensen's turn to make this movie the best of the prequel trilogy, and this scene to be the best of any Star Wars movie. Like I said, we all knew he was going to turn. He had to. Darth Vader was in the original trilogy, episodes 4, 5, and 6, with his redemption at the end of 6. And that was a heartfelt moment. But nothing was as heartfelt as this moment. The moment Anakin turns is heartbreaking, to say the least. And I don't know how many times I can say that, but I'll say it over and over again. It was heartbreaking. It tore me up inside and made me feel like, okay, that's what the first 2 movies were building up to. This moment. The moment Anakin's laying there with his limbs missing, trying to grasp at the obsidian ground, pulling himself up. But the look on his face, his words didn't even mean as much as what his face looked like. And the same with Ewan McGregor's Obi-Wan Kenobi. He looked like he was hurting. They looked like they were in pain. These are 2 brothers that basically grew up together, that just lost each other. It hurt. It hurt everybody involved. It hurt us as viewers. As a third-person omniscient, it hurt us. It tore us up. We see the reunion of the 2 in A New Hope when Darth Vader cuts Obi-Wan Kenobi down, but there was no emotion in that. We thought, okay, Anakin Skywalker was a friend of Obi-Wan Kenobi, and this Darth Vader guy just cut him up. Then in The Empire Strikes Back, we find out that actually Anakin Skywalker is Darth Vader, and we start thinking, okay, what was his turn like? And they didn't make much mention of when Anakin actually turned into Darth Vader, so we just figured, okay, he was a Jedi that went bad. He just went bad. That's it. He was good, he was bad, it was over. And then he was Darth Vader, and he chopped down Obi-Wan Kenobi. But that's not it. This scene proves to us that everything in Star Wars was built on this moment. And it isn't just the acting that made it possible, it's the cinematography as well. The background, you can see the molten sky looking like dark and light are fighting against each other to see who's more powerful or who's going to prevail. And of course, we know the dark is going to prevail, and Obi-Wan Kenobi has to go into hiding. And a lot of people will tell you that the duel of theirs, Anakin and Obi-Wan Kenobi, with their lightsabers, was our favorite part of the movie. And not as much mine. I mean, there were other parts of the movie I liked even more than the lightsaber duel. To me, it just felt more like choreographed dancing with weapons. And that's not a bad thing. I mean, it made for an amusing, entertaining lightsaber duel, and there was plenty of Star Wars lore in that battle. I mean, you had force pushes, force pulls, jumping from platform to platform, stuff we'd never seen in the original trilogy that were brought to life for us, just so we could see what Jedi and Sith could actually do. Because yes, Anakin Skywalker was a Sith at this point. Look at his yellow eyes. But it was that moment that Anakin and Obi-Wan say goodbye that is the defining moment, and what makes the original 6 movies come together. They all hinge on that part. It took us from hating Darth Vader from the original trilogy to going, oh my God, this poor guy. And I felt so bad for him. I mean, I actually shed a tear when this moment happened, and a lot of people in the theater did. When we walked out of the theater, there wasn't really a dry eye, and nobody was really talking. They're just like, wow, that was so emotional. And as far as scenes from Star Wars hitting home and really driving that emotion into me, there's only one other that kind of comes close. There's some that are really good, don't get me wrong. There are a lot of good emotional moments in Star Wars, but for sadness and for feeling pain, there's only one other one that really comes close to me to this one, but not quite. And that's when Kanan Jarrus dies in Rebels. That moment hurt, but it didn't hurt as bad as this. Kanan Jarrus dying didn't hinge all of Star Wars. It hinged Rebels, and it may have made Ezra into what he was, but it didn't have an impact on the rest of the stories from the other 6 movies. But let me go back for a moment. There is one other moment in Star Wars where I felt the pain of somebody, and that's when Ben Solo's talking to his deceased father on the remnants of the second Death Star. That to me was passionate and emotional and heart-driven, but it also didn't have an effect on the rest of the movies. Yes, it had an effect on Ben Solo. He didn't speak another word after that moment, and he showed with his actions his acting style. And Adam Driver did a great job as Kylo Ren / Ben Solo. I wish we could see more of him, maybe do something earlier. But this scene in Revenge of the Sith is probably the scene of all of Star Wars. And I applaud George Lucas for that, because when we were watching The Phantom Menace and Attack of the Clones, it didn't seem like he was going to have it in him. But there it was. And even though we knew Anakin Skywalker was going to turn to Darth Vader, turn to the dark side, turn against his brother, we didn't know it was going to be this impactful. And all we could say is, don't do it, don't do it. But then when he did it, we're like, wow, I can't believe he actually did it. But he did, and he had to. We knew this, and I've said this already. And it was this moment on that we felt for Darth Vader of the original trilogy. We knew what he had gone through. We knew he wasn't just some evil man behind a mask. Even though we saw behind the mask in Return of the Jedi, that moment was a little emotional, but this moment was the biggest one. This was what made us feel Darth Vader, made us feel Anakin Skywalker. It wasn't when he lost his mother. That made us angry. And it wasn't when he choked Padme. That made us even more angry, and we wondered why he didn't get arrested and go to prison for a little while. But I know some Star Wars fans really hate the prequels, or dislike them strongly. And I get it, I do. I get the criticisms of it, too much CGI, the writing, and whatever else that they can think of to put it down. But that little boy that we saw in The Phantom Menace, that sweet little boy that fell in love with a space angel, just turned into the most dangerous man in the galaxy, other than his master. But what do you think? You think this is going to be a culmination? You think this is going to be something that the Kenobi series explores? Obi-Wan Kenobi's heartbreak over losing Anakin Skywalker. Do you think we'll see some kind of emotion out of the masked Darth Vader about losing his brother, the man who mentored him, the man he found as his father? Let me know in the comments below, and let me know what your experience was during Revenge of the Sith during this moment. What did you feel? What did you think? How did it affect you? How did it affect the way you look at Star Wars? But that's all I've got for today, guys. Thank you all for watching. This is Gerald from Star Wars Fanatic signing off, wishing you all great health, happiness, and a wonderful Star Wars day. Thank you for watching, and remember, this is the way, the only way.